In this chapter, we explore with two related and fundamental questions: what is a school and what is it for? We pose and discuss these questions to aid you in forming your ideas about the underlying issues. It is unlikely that you can make a good career choice if you lack a fundamental understanding of the institution in which your career is centered. Also, also, if you hope to thrive and be happy within the institution, you have to know how it is put together and how it works. For example, you must know the institution says it's doing and what, in fact, it actually does. If you are considering a job in a particular school, you need to know what the leadership in school really accepts in their teachers and know whether you want to whether work to work there. Finally, hope to improve the schools. That is, make them better because of your involvement with them. You must be a realistic view of what is going on in the schools now, and develop your vision of what the schools can and should be in the coming future. What is a school? What is a school? This may sound this may sound like a profound question. In fact, it probably seems rather tame. But as the U.S. Senator Lincoln Lewis as Highaway once wrote, um, our point at the schools have been so much your life that we actually are may have become almost invisible to you. Again, we ask you to stop reading and seriously reflect. What is a school? The average child will spend more than 7,000 hours in elementary school, including kindergarten, by the end of the sixth grade. By the time a student graduates from high school, this time totals 14,000 hours, the equivalent of watching 10,000 full length movies. Your reaction to this question reflects who are you and what are your experience with the school has been. Perhaps you responded in one of the following says, a school and agency that weans children from the protective warmth of the family that trains in what society has decided to use for work. A school is a place where they fix your mind so that you will think like everyone else. A school is where children fall in love with learning. A school is a tax supported by babysitting agency. A school is a place where young savages have a chance to become civilized by engaging in the world's most precious wisdom. A school is a place where we explore who we really are and who we become, full creative human beings. A school is an institution where the dead wisdom and worn out skills of the past and Air Force fed to young. A school is where real education takes place. For the moment, let us say that education is a process of human growth by which one gains greater understanding and control over oneself and one's world. It revolves around minds, our bodies, and our relations with the people in the world around us. Education is also characterized by continuous development and change. Education is much more open-minded, ended, and all-inclusive than schooling and new food boundaries. It includes both informal learning that takes place in the schools and entire universal and informal learning, from how to hook a worm on a line to how to burp a baby. The agents of education can range from to revered grandparents to the guest on a late night television talk show, from a child with a disability to a distinguished scientist. Whereas schooling follows a mountain has a certain predictability, education quite often takes us by surprise. We go to the movies to relax and become home with a vivid sense of the horrors of the warfare. We get into a casual conversation with a stranger and discover how little we know about the other religions. Education is a lifelong process. It starts long life before school and should be going ongoing our entire lives. Schooling. In the contrast of education, schooling is a specific formalized process usually focused on the young but that is changing, whose general pattern traditionally has very little from the setting in the next. Despite minor variations in teaching practices among schools, for example, schooling remains a rather uniform practice throughout the United States. Children arrive at school approximately the same time, take assigned seats, and top while adults use the same summer textbooks, do homework, take exams, and give grades, and so on. The topics they learn from fractions to the three branches of the U.S. government have usually been mandated in advance. Schools are created for the express the purpose of delivering a certain type of educational experience called the curriculum. Teachers have received and prepare fulfill the purposes of schooling as defined by the curriculum. The curriculum is discussed by more in Chapter 5. What is taught represents what is a community believes young people need to know and develop into the productive skills. Adults, at least, includes what school policymakers in a particular community believe young people need to know. In effect, you were taught in the elementary and high school represents your community's wager. That is a social bet. The older generation thinks that you and your schoolmates need what you need to know of in the future. In the curriculum, a community choose turn a losing bet. The individual social consequences are indeed severe. Keeping the difference between education and schooling clearly in mind is particularly difficult for the people who should be most sensitive to them. This is the teachers. What do educations in schools? Most people enter teaching because they wish to educate others. Consciously and unconsciously, they are committed to a particular education philosophy. Over time, everyday experiences and inevitably cause their intelligence to shift from abstract educational ideals to the network of personalities and ideas surrounding the particular schools in which they teach. They become invested in schooling. And we things out of this is the mountains of questioning, assigning homework quizzes, and faculty meetings. And to a very degree, they tend to at least focus on larger issues of education. For this reason alone, it is important for the teacher to keep alive the questions: what is a school for, and what is my contribution to this child that calls educated? We will have more to say on this topic when we examine the ideas in education, chapter 9. What are your philosophical foundation in American education? Schools as cultures. A society is a grouping of individuals bound together by a variety of connections. Some of these connections might be shared geographic space or similar radical features. What really connects people, however, is their shared culture composed of beliefs about the right is wrong and what is a good and bad. Culture also includes the Dhamma ideas, stories and myths, artistic works, social habits, and organizations of a group. Another of its key aspects is the language and the way people use it in relationship to one another. Every group of people who live together in relative harmony can be said to share a culture. Once defined as simply just the way we are surrounded. Without a common culture, every time we walked into a room or passed someone on the street, would respond, our culture is telling us the appropriate thing to do. All sorts of cultures exist. A family possesses a culture, and the U.S. Marine Corps in a few weeks, a culturally dormitory assumes distinctive culture. So, too, with a school, think about it. Each school you have attended has its own culture, or set of beliefs, values, traditions, and a way of thinking and behaving toward one another. That distinguishes it from other social institutions and other schools. Culture, including school cultures, can be good or bad because leading good human or poor ones. A strong, positive school culture engages the hearts and minds of children, stretching them identically, physically, morally, and socially. A school with a weak negative culture has some type of facility, student, teacher, and ratio and curriculum. In neighboring grad school, you have a weak negative effect on students, where everyone, students and teachers, goes through the motions with the few positive effects, but the strong culture school provides, along with shelter and the loving caring, the adult passes